Well, our members are always looking OTH, over the horizon. We're looking for issues that are upcoming issue of concern. LTE conference, I've been a previous speaker here, and they've treated me very nice. And I always learn a little something when I come here, and it's a good group of people. And many of my members, the RCA members, as you know, many of the carriers and the associate members come here, and it's a great opportunity for them to look at sort of the state of the industry in between some of the shows, and I always pick up a couple good ideas that we should promote in RCA's event also. Well, obviously they all want to roll out the 4G. You know, the one thing you've learned in this world is you don't get behind on your Gs, okay? But there's some policy issues that make it very, very difficult and huge impediments. And while we're talking about some of the technology issues here and the rollout of some of the new not only devices and services, I'm also concerned about what the impacts of the policy advocacy issues in Washington, D.C., how it affects actual rollout and actual business decisions. For example, you talked about the new devices, LTE. How are you going to get handsets and devices to operate on band 12? How are you going to have interoperable services and partners that you can roam with if you're a carrier that's less than a national footprint? So some of those things we'll talk about here. Certainly in my presentation I'm going to focus on the policy issues, but I also learn a little about the technical realities of how fast things can roll out and what are the impediments from the technical side. One, we don't have interoperability of the 700 megahertz band, and the government has allowed AT&T and Verizon specifically to bifurcate that band, make it much more difficult to roll out devices and handsets that work across the band that allow carriers to partner with other carriers. It's really a detriment to the consumer, and I think the FCC was asleep at the switch when they were looking at this nuanced rollout of the 700 megahertz LTE on AT&T and Verizon band plans. So that's one issue. Also, devices. When you have bifurcation of your spectrum, then you don't have devices that are fully available to all members of the carrier community, and that's a huge issue right now. We have members. RCA represents over 100 carriers, and they want to spend money and build out networks and bring new services to rural America and regional players, and they can't do it if you don't have the devices.
In terms of a competitive market space versus not, can you let's say that the T-Mobile merger didn't happen, wasn't allowed to happen. Do you think that would create more jobs? And if it does, what kind?
I think it will create more jobs. Number one, the AT&T commercials about creating jobs are euphemistically referred to in my as a real spin job. 96,000 jobs with $8 billion investment. And when you drill down into that, AT&T is not going to create jobs just by getting a 4G network going. If AT&T and T-Mobile were to build out their 4G networks, HSPA and the LTE networks, you would create more jobs than the 96,000. If you were to allow my carriers, all the RCA member carriers, to build out their networks and essentially get into an ecosystem that allows them to build out a network and have devices, you're going to get maybe not 100 times that, but you're going to get hundreds of times more jobs in the areas where we really need it, which is in the lowest income rural areas in the United States. And we did a study not 4 or 5 months ago at RCA, and we showed that 117,000 jobs would be created in rural America in the 14 states that have less than 90% broadband capability in the first 3 years. So 117,000 jobs created in the United States just by rolling out 4G high-speed mobile broadband, and our carriers will be the ones that will do that.